Guys, Semen Del Piso back once again with yet another video. We're going to talk about semen retention. Of course, one of the phases of this entire practice that is caught in this, that's part of this perpetual chain of events that occur within semen retention. These chain of events occur like such, right? As such. You're thinking about saving your energy because you've heard about all of the benefits of being celibate, of being on semen retention. You start to suppress that force, that sexual energy, instead of splurging, right? Releasing. It's hard in the beginning, but then you keep suppressing, you're doing much better. But then you start to look at a lot of the lewd things in the world, a lot of the lewd material. You glance at it, but you don't release. You glance at it, you don't release. You look at it for long periods of time, you still don't release. And then eventually, suddenly out of nowhere, you have a lot of time on your hands, more time than usual, and then you find yourself at the beginning of a new streak. I want to explain to you this step. Right, what I'm trying to do right now, at least with the channel, is of course give you solid videos on semen retention, of course God, because God is very important to me in my life, and just in terms of relinquishing a lot of habits that tie you with the people of the world and their heathen and hedonistic ways. But ultimately, I know that we're behind as a collective on the practice of semen retention. A lot of us are constantly relapsing. A lot of us are releasing. We're still looking at adult film content. We're still looking at lewd material on Instagram. And I'm gonna try to walk you through every single step where we sort of become astray and give you my personal opinion and guidance on how to avoid that situation by giving you a little bit of an intellectual perspective on it, right? And how I feel about it as well. So like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into it. If you guys like the lighting, by the way, leave a like. Leave an extra like. So on the step that I'm going to speak about in particular is the step where we're constantly looking at adult film content still as we're on the practice of semen retention, or we're sort of looking or staring too much at lewd material, at half-naked women, or just anyone scantily dressed or barely dressed, and we're not doing anything about it, right? We're not releasing still. I'm gonna tell you that that is probably the most dangerous thing you can do, which is why I stress in a lot of my videos on semen retention to build, when you're on this practice, build the aqueduct, that spiritual aqueduct like structure in your mind as soon as possible, where you're looking at things of the world, the scantily dressed things, the lewd material for a moment, and then it filters through your mind, and then it just empties out on the other side. There's no residue, there's nothing lingering behind. That is it. You just dealt with something in the world momentarily, and then you carried on with your life. Though I'm gonna explain to you why looking at adult film content and just looking at lewd things in general, or just half-naked women in general, is very, very dangerous on the practice, even if you don't release. I'm gonna bring it back, I always bring it back to the BBC Sherlock show, Benedict Cumberbatch, when he was speaking to Martin Freeman, which is Watson. Benedict Cumberbatch is Sherlock. He said, Martin Freeman to Sherlock, listen, you're such a genius, you were born a prodigy, right, at this. You're just so good at solving crimes. And I always say this on the channel, right, I always make this reference, but Benedict Cumberbatch, Sherlock, says, I'm not a genius, I am no smarter than the normal man, but what I do is I pay attention to everything that I look at, I pay attention to what goes into my mind, because anything that I need help with in regards to the crime at hand or the mystery at hand, I fill my brain up with that concurrent parallel material. And it's the same thing with semen retention. When you guys are starting the practice and you're having troubles trying to not relapse or get long streaks, you need to really do stress, not necessarily avoiding looking at scantily dressed women, but you can't dwell on it for too long, because that's when the release is going to begin. That timer is going to begin. The things that you should avoid completely is when you have too much time on your hands, when you're starting the practice and you're looking at adult film content, you're on your Instagram account, you're looking through a lot of scantily dressed, half-naked women on your Instagram. That needs to stop. Any sort of sedentary habit where you're just looking at adult film content or anyone half-naked, that has to stop. Now, when you're in public, when you're in society, right, and you're walking around, and especially in a season like this, summer, in Belgrade, it's 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Same thing over there. The women are going to be half dressed. They're going to be naked. They're not going to be dressed, modestly, right? And that's going to be a big trouble and a little bit of a stumbling block for people on semen retention that are just beginning. And I'm going to tell you like this: avoiding that right? Not looking at them, even though you have this desire to look at them, is going to be a little bit of a thorn in your side in the long run. When you desire something, this is the irony of life. I'm sure there's some sort of quantum physics formula that explains this. Maybe it's the observer effect, I don't know. But when you want something in life and you are avoiding it manually, like you're purposefully avoiding that thing that you viscerally desire, that thing is not going to disappear. It's going to constantly appear. It's going to poke at you until it's fulfilled. It is the same thing with adult film content. It is the same thing with seeing women scantily dressed, especially in the summertime or in a hot season, because you're still beginning that practice of semen retention. You want to look, you want to indulge, your body wants to have it. And I'm not saying that you should go and stare, but you have to look to satisfy the mind just for a moment, and then you look away, you continue with what you're doing, you continue walking, you stop dwelling on it, or you at least, since you're in the beginning of your practice, you have to suppress that urge to dwell on things lustfully for long periods of time. That is really one of the true objectives that you can take. You have to do this. The more you dwell on scantily dressed women, the more you look at half-naked women or anything lustful, that stuff, even if you don't indulge, that stuff saves as like some sort of energy in your subconscious until that memory, until that limit of your subconscious is reached for lustful material, and it's just going to burst. You cannot suppress all of these lustful images and this lustful indulgences for too long. You have to learn how to deal with the world effectively and maturely. The only way out is through. You need to have, sexuality is part of us. We are human beings. We have a physical body. We have a reproductive system, and that system is prioritized over every other system in the body. When we release as men, all the energy from the skeletal system, right? The bone marrow, the nervous system, nerve cells, right? The energy, the nerve energy, circulatory system, the finest parts of the blood, the respiratory system, the filtered oxygen, all of that is going into our semen. It goes into the reproduction of that. The more you release, the more that's going to happen, weakening the body, weakening the body, weakening the body. The reproduction of sperm of the reproductive system is the magnum opus of the body. That is the only thing that the body prioritizes. And so sex is part of it. Sex is part of our fabric. And so we have to go through the world and understand these things. We have to look and understand what we're seeing. We have to not sort of suppress anything, but understand what we're seeing. But when you start to do that for long periods of time, you're looking and you're not dwelling on anything, because the idea is not to, you're looking, but you're not dwelling on any thoughts. You're not holding anything back here. You're not holding on to any lustful images. The more you do that, on and on for time after time, day after day, week after week, month after month, when you continue doing this, you have the outlets, right? You're transmuting that energy through journaling. You do a lot of physical exercise, calisthenics, you go to the gym. If you want to do martial arts, do martial arts. You're outside doing something physical. You're writing, you're having a socialization with, if you don't have friends, you do it at your work, at your line of work. That's what I'm doing. I have no friends. I don't speak to anyone. So I do all my socialization at work. So you do that, and you're transmuting the energy. And day after day, when you are looking at the things of the world, the scantily dressed women, the lewd women, and you're not dwelling on it, and you're just carrying on with your day after day after day, that aqueduct is being built. And soon, the neuroplasticity of your mind is going to create this system and this structure where you're just looking at the things of the world and you don't dwell on it. It just goes in and out the other ear. That's it. And out of your mind. You don't hold on to anything lustful. You hold on to visceral experiences that touch your soul, things that are ordained by God, that's meant to teach you a lesson, meant for you to renew yourself, to renew your blood, to renew your soul, so you could start to be one of the light-emitting ones. This practice is incredibly hard for a lot of us when we're beginning the practice of semen retention, especially in the beginning, because we don't know what to do with the excess energy that you're getting. Your testosterone is doubling after a week of holding in your semen, right? And then you don't have the proper system in place in order to handle the energy from the outside when you're dwelling on lustful things, half-naked women, and adult film content. You have to steer away from that as strongly as possible. You're going to still have, when you're beginning your practice, you're still going to have friends, right? You're still going to be with the people of the past, and they will tempt you into sinning. They're going to tempt you into still dwelling on lust, looking at adult film content and all that kind of stuff. But you're going to, and then you will fail. You will fall a couple times. That's the natural trajectory of the practice in the beginning. But the more you are actively trying to stay away from all of that lewd material, right? That licentiousness. You're constantly creating that aqueduct within yourself where you're filtering the lust of the world, and it's going in your mind and it's going out the other side, right? You're not releasing, you're not dwelling on anything. You're at home, you have a break, a day off from work. You are not sitting on your bed and thinking about whether you should go on Instagram and look at that account again, that half-naked account, a girl account, again, where she's trying to sell women nail polish, ultimately, but she has all this attention from guys. Right? Because in every one of her pictures, every one of her videos, she's half naked. That's not important. You don't do that. What you need to do is you need to reprogram the body. You reprogram your habits in the beginning of your streaks. So lust and lasciviousness and licentiousness is pushed out. Read books. Reading is incredibly hard to an overstimulated mind, especially the overstimulated minds of adult film content viewing, licentiousness, indulging, all of that. Read books, be outside, sit down, try to be calm in public. Don't give in to your anxieties in public spaces. Just be mindful, be aware, be in your skin, think about things, journal, write exactly what you're feeling. Write out even this expression of this in the beginning of your practices, even in the beginning of your practices that want to express that lust in the only way you know how, orgasmic release. Write it down, and it doesn't need to make sense to you. Just write it down in paragraphs after paragraphs after paragraphs. Go on YouTube if you want. Look at videos, go back to these topics or these things that make you happy, these reflexive videos that you like to watch on YouTube that makes you happy. It's not lewd, that's not licentious at all. Find ways to detach yourself from how you always express lust, how you, when you're trying to find a refuge of safety from the things of the world that happens as a byproduct of being a person that lives in the third dimension, and you're following the trajectory of God's will, which are in all the experiences and the events taking you to a certain point. You write all that down, look on YouTube, detach yourself from lust, detach yourself from everything, have faith, pray a lot. In the beginning, I wasn't really praying like that. I was just hoping and using intellectual energy and mental energy to try to combat lust. It worked to some degree, but of course that was all preordained by God. I wouldn't have gotten anywhere in this practice if it wasn't for Him. So hopefully the same thing applies to you. Journal, stay on semen retention, go outside, get some fresh air, drink a lot of water, and write things down, be creative, and you're gonna get over that initial hurdle. And with that being said, that's all I have to say about this video today. If you guys enjoyed that kind of content, like, comment, subscribe, share the video as it appears. Don't ever let this place get you down. It is a world that is taken into lust, and they will try to ensnare you in it as well. Your friends are gonna drag you down to the depths with them unknowingly, because that's all they know. You believe in a higher way. You believe in semen retention, you believe in celibacy, and you will chase that. You have to chase it by any means. Stay away from everyone and anyone that tries to pull you back into the world. Lust, lasciviousness, licentiousness, hedonism. I love you all. Stay radiant. I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Woo!